I got the chance to play inZOI before the early access release, so let's talk about it. Before I get into my thoughts, I want to thank the people over at Krafton and the inZOI studio for making this possible. And I also do want to point out that whilst I was given early access to try out the game and got to keep a Steam key of the game, I was not paid to make any content or say anything specific about the game, so all of the opinions in today's video will be my own. I also will be adding chapters to this video, so you can just skip to the parts that are relevant to you because we're going to get into quite a few things today. Now that all of that has been said, welcome to another video, cuties. I hope you have all been doing well, or hello if you're new here. My name is Cora. I usually do videos on The Sims, and The Sims is a game that I grew up playing so much of and I have always loved. But on this channel, I have also not kept quiet about The Sims 4 just really lacking something for me. There was like a specific humor and like passion behind previous Sims titles that The Sims 4 is just missing for me. The gameplay often feels very dull and I could just never fully get into it. So when I found out about inZOI a while back, I was like, let's not get too excited, but let's also get way too excited about this because I have a Sims-shaped hole in my heart that needs to be filled, and the graphics looked amazing. Everything I heard about it sounded amazing, so I was like, I really need to keep an eye out on this, which is why I was obviously super excited to get the chance to try it out early and share my thoughts with you. One last thing I quickly want to mention though is that there currently is a drops event going on where you get the chance to win a Steam demo key for the inZOI Creative Studio. So if it's something you're interested in, I'll make sure to leave a link for that in the description down below. But now let's get into some of my thoughts. inZOI will be released into early access on the 28th of March, priced at $40 US. There was an online showcase stream that the developers did yesterday, which was very interesting, so I'll make sure to leave a link to that in the description down below. And let's quickly just brush up on what to expect from an early access game. So there will be features that are not currently in the game that they're hoping to add to the game in the not so distant future. I'll quickly put up 2 screenshots of the roadmap that they showed in the stream, which was very interesting to see when they plan to add which features. And obviously, if you don't want to play the game with one of those features, you could always wait until that update rolls out and then purchase the game. So things like pools, family trees, being able to customize the hotkeys, new furniture, relationship improvements, but also new city and freelance jobs will be added with upcoming updates. So there's always something to look forward to. And whilst we're at the topic of the development, whilst I was trying out the game and there was like an influencer stream that we attended, I really got the feeling that the developers were super passionate about the game and that player feedback really meant a lot to them, and that they're working hard to implement features that players suggest and also change things that players might not like or things that they see could be improved. So that was really, really nice to see, and just, you know, that passion that developers have for a game that I felt like the developers of the earlier Sims titles had was so nice to see. And something that stuck out to me a lot was that the developer said he also wants negative feedback, and he really honors getting negative feedback because it means he can make the game as good as possible. And that was just so nice to hear. I don't know, it really caught me by surprise in a positive way. And also, before you purchase the game, make sure you check the PC specs, because it's a lot higher than for something like The Sims 4. So if you are purchasing the game, make sure your PC can run the game. And also there is quite a few AI features in the game which you don't have to use, you can totally play without and it's fine. But if that is why you're purchasing the game, then just make sure that you actually got the graphics cards that support the AI features, because otherwise you won't be able to use them. Moving on to my favorite part of many games, the character creation, and there is so much to love here. First of all, I'm obsessed with how the Zois look. I think they're absolutely adorable, especially if you have a good graphics card. But the game also lets you choose between different filters. One of them is a cartoon filter, which I feel like would really work well with older graphics cards to make the game look a bit nicer. Or if you're just not into the super realistic style of the game, that filter might be for you. I also really loved how diverse the presets were. That's not something you always see, so it's great to have it in inZOI. I actually spent so much time just looking at the presets because I loved them so much, and I was just so happy to see how diverse they were. Another thing that I really liked whilst creating my ZOIs was that there's a symmetry mode that you can turn on and off, which just helps you to make your ZOIs look even more realistic, because real people do not have symmetrical faces. So it's very nice to have that option for the ZOIs as well, to maybe have one eye squint more than the other, have one ear be higher up than the other. Things like that are really nice to be able to do. Another idea that I really liked is being able to use AI prompts to customize your ZOI's clothing items. So you could put any prompt in, it will give you an image, and then you can put that onto your ZOI's clothing items. And that currently works pretty well if you just want the shirt to have a certain structure or like all over pattern. But unfortunately, if you just have one design in mind, let's say a little cat that you want to put on a certain spot on your shirt, it doesn't really work that well because it multiplies the picture as many times as it will fit on the clothing items. So you'll have like a million different cats, or if you make it bigger, you can have one big cat, but then it also shows up somewhere on the back of the shirt because it still fits there. So that's something that I feel like they could improve on, but all of the AI features are still being developed, so that's definitely something that they could change in the future. Now let's talk about some things that I wasn't super obsessed with. So when you create a ZOI that you want to play with, you get to pick a trait, and that trait could be something like adventurer or volunteer, socialite, visionary, scholar. There's a few different ones, but they all come with like different characteristics. There's a description for them and different values that are attached to that trait. And I felt like that was quite limiting, especially because you only get to pick one, and there's quite a few characteristics and values that come with it that you don't get to pick and choose from. And then you also get the option to pick a desired life, even though you don't have to, but there is a few different ones, such as life of creativity, life of wisdom, or life of tranquility. And I feel like it is nice to put them in there, kind of like an aspiration for your ZOI to follow in their life. It also tells you what trait it aligns with, and that just really made me feel like I have to pick the correct trait for that desired life, or the other way around. And for me personally, it just felt very limiting. It also said like what skills it aligns with, and I feel like it just really already gave you too many things that you're supposed to do and not enough to choose by yourself. I also felt like some parts of the faces could have used a few more dots, a few more areas that you could change. Especially one thing that I noticed is the bridge of the nose. When I turned my ZOI to the side and wanted to make the nose curve in a certain way, it just wouldn't let me do it. Like, it was very minimal the way I could curve it, and that was kind of upsetting. Because everything else felt like I could do so much, and then there were also a few areas where I was like, why can't I do this? So I really hope that they, with time, will be adding a few more things that you're able to change. Also, some things weren't super intuitive. When, for example, I tried to tilt the eye of my ZOI, it took me very long to figure out how to do it. When I hovered over the eye of my ZOI, there was one half circle and two options that I could pick, which one of them made the eye wider or narrower, and the other one made it open more or less. And to tilt the whole eye, you actually had to move the mouse slightly up until there was a second half circle that appeared, and then you could tilt the whole eye. So things like that just made it a bit difficult for me to find the right things to change about the face. Once you figured it out, it's fine, but I feel like those things could be maybe a bit more intuitive. Also, I felt like the choices of hairstyles were very limited, and also the clothing items got pretty repetitive very quickly. But they did mention in the live stream yesterday that they're planning to add new items to the game every 3 months. So hopefully that will, give us some new things to play around with. I also had a bit of an issue with customizing my ZOI's bodies. I felt like there just wasn't enough I could do. Like the bodies all look pretty similar to each other. I also felt like the body weight slider just didn't have a wide enough range, so I really do hope that things like that get put into the game eventually, because I feel like it's really important to be able to create diverse body types. I also noticed that body hair only works on male Zois, so you don't get the option to give your female Zois any body hair, which frustrated me a little bit if I'm honest. Another thing I only quickly want to talk about, because I honestly did not spend that much time with it, is the build mode. I just found myself a little frustrated at certain parts of it. So I feel like a lot of the things aren't super intuitive, so you try to do one thing and it doesn't work the way that you think it should. And that could also still be my fault. I don't know, maybe other people are smarter than me. I just found myself very frustrated with it. I also really don't understand why when you place an item, you always have it face left or right, I can't remember, but it doesn't face you. And you also have to press either C or Z or the right mouse button to turn things. You can't just use the scroll wheel or something, so it takes pretty long to turn things, and you have to do that for every single thing if you want it to face you, and that really started bothering me. There is quite a few things you can do, and I feel like you're very free in your creativity because nothing is really restricted to the grid. You can even like pick up the whole house and turn it freely if you hold Alt down. It doesn't have to stay on the grid. All the windows you can put wherever, or the doors. So that was really fun to play around with, but like I said, a lot of things aren't very intuitive. Also, you can customize pretty much everything because of the color picker, which is also super nice. A lot of the times you can even customize small things on the furniture, so that was also really cool to see. But I feel like coloring things got a little bit frustrating because it just took forever, and I feel like painting walls, especially if you only wanted a certain area for the wall, you had to click onto every tiny bit of the wall. You couldn't just click and drag, for example, to paint all of it. So that was kind of annoying. Definitely found myself getting a bit bothered by that. Also, if you add things to the selection, you only add like tiny parts of the wall because the grid is so small, so you have to click a million times if you only want a certain part of the wall to be a certain color. And that just, you know, that got to me. I was like, I can't deal with this. It is very fun to be able to customize that many things, but I kind of wish like there was something like we had in The Sims 3 where, for example, if you have a sofa and you colored 3 parts of the sofa in, you can just take that color scheme and pull it onto something else. I felt like that was really nice because you could just have a whole furniture set look the same. There's no option as far as I saw in inZOI, so it was a little tedious to have to color all of those different things in. I also only quickly want to talk about gameplay because I will be doing a whole other video on that, since there's so many thoughts I have, so much I have to say that we would be sitting here for hours on end. So there will be a whole different video on that if you're interested in it, but I just will go into like a brief overview of the most important things I feel like I should mention. So the gameplay is quite fun. There's quite a few things you can explore and do. I love how you can actually customize your world, so you can go and change the bushes or the trees and decorations and things like that, which I thought was really fun to see. So you can really customize the city that you live in. There's currently 3 different worlds. They all look very different from each other. I also love that the streets are really populated, or the shops that you go to, literally anywhere you take your Zoi, there will be plenty of other Zois to interact with, and they all look very different, and it's just so fun to see them walk around and go about their day. One thing that bothered me a bit though was that for some Zois it seemed almost impossible to build a relationship with because I just could not invite them over. Every single time I clicked on their profile and wanted to call them over, it just said they're busy, they have another event, they're not in the location, they are at work. It was literally just impossible to get in touch with this Zoi, and you also don't seem to be able to call them or text them at this point, so there was literally no way for me to form any sort of relationship with them. I also thought that at the current stage, the camera movement was very tedious. I am someone who loves moving the camera around with my WASD keys, which you can't do because you have the chance to actually control your ZOI with those keys. So you can, move around the city as if you are the ZOI. You can go into shoulder view and really experience the city, which is nice for people who want to do that. I personally don't really see myself using that feature a lot. They did say they were going to add hotkey customization, so I really do hope that you'll be able to change the camera settings with that. I also thought that careers at the current stage were kind of boring so far. I think the biggest issue for me, I don't even mind if careers aren't active. I think they did try to work on that, but it's kind of hard to do, which I understand. The days in inZOI are pretty long. I think they're like 96 minutes long or something. So your ZOI is at work for quite a long time and you can speed it up to 10 times speed, but it does not feel very fast. Like you still sit there for a very long time waiting for your ZOI to come back from work, and that to me is just don't have the patience for it. And when your ZOI sleeps between the hours, I think, of midnight and 6 a.m, the game actually does speed up to like 30 times speed if you wanted to. So that speed I wish you could also enable for when your ZOI is at work. And then one more thing I want to say is it was very fun to explore the city. There's so much to see and it looks really cute. And like I said, there's so many ZOIs walking around and it just feels very lively. But I've sometimes struggled to understand which objects I can actually interact with. Specifically when I went to like a restaurant, I was like, what do I click on to actually order food? Because things don't really highlight as obviously, or you can pretty much click on everything. So it's a bit weird to figure out what you can do with what objects. I figured it out in the end. Like every shop you walk into, there's this monitor standing up where you can just pick what you want to order, but it did take me a very long time to get there. One last thing I quickly need to mention though before we wrap this video up is that the game is not currently fully translated into any other languages. I believe the English translation is somewhere between 70 and 80% right now. I did not run into any issues of understanding what I had to do or any important text not being translated. Some of the translations do feel a little bit unusual though, so when you read certain things, sometimes it reads very different to how you might word things or a bit more formal, but I kind of thought that was just endearing and you always understood the context, so I never ran into any language issues. Now to summarize this whole video a bit and give you my last thoughts, I had so much fun playing this game early, and whilst there were a lot of great things about it, there were also some things that I didn't really like or that I thought needed to be improved, but I'm also extremely hopeful that the developers really are putting in their best. I mentioned earlier how passionate they felt about the game, which for me as a player is just the best sign that a game will end up being great. And also the fact that they put such a big emphasis on listening to the player base, to me is very comforting and just really makes me excited for the future of this game. And I'm super excited to in the future bring you more content on inZOI. Like I said, I am planning to upload a few more videos over the next few days, so if it's something you're interested in and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any more questions or what your thoughts are about inZOI. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you all next time. Bye!